Hi everyone, I'm Eko, and today I'm going to talk about how to use Doodle art as a fun and effective learning media to learn passive voice in English. Let's get started. What is Doodle art? Doodle art is the art of free drawing that is usually unplanned or spontaneous. It usually just like simple drawings that reflect one's ideas. Doodle art can involve various objects, characters, or everyday activities, and this is what makes it so interesting as a learning media. Why is Doodle art fit for passive voice learning? Because in Doodle art we can show simple activities or events. This makes it easier for students to visually observe an action performed by the subject and object. That way, it's easier for them to identifying of active sentence and how to convert them to passive voice. Using visual doodle art like this helps students process information faster because they can see and visualize abstract concept based on their imagination. In addition, doodle art also makes learning more fun and interactive. Students can be more creative and directly involved in learning because they have to interpret pictures, write active sentence, and then convert them to passive voice. This activity makes them participate more actively and develops their language skill. This is how to implement the doodle art in our class. Alright, in 5 minutes first, for prepare the info cues and computer. A teacher must give instruction to the student for praying first, led by the chairman. Don't forget take the absent list to check your students. While doing that, you can ask the mood or condition of your student to make the class is not flat. You can also give a perception for today's learning. After that, tell the students about the purpose of today's learning and start to give explanation about what is passive voice. You can explain by showing the PowerPoint of your material. And what is passive voice? Let's talk about the passive voice. In English, the passive voice is a tense where the main focus is on the object receiving the action. It is usually used when we want to emphasize what is happening to object. Example of active sentence are the researcher observed the ball is stalling, which means the researcher is observed the ball is stalling. If we change it to the passive voice, it becomes the ball is stalling is observed by the researcher. Before we get into the structure of passive voice, we must know what is object, to be, and subject. First, we have object. An object, it can be person, animal, or thing that receive the action in a sentence. From this picture, we know that the ball is stalling is an object because he received the action from the researcher. Next, we have to be. To be is an auxiliary verb used in the passive voice to help form the tense. Forms of to be include is, am, are, was, and were. Is used for singular like I, he, she, it. Am is used for subject like I. Are is used for plural like they and we. Was for singular and were for plural. And we have a verb. A verb is an action performed by the subject. From this picture, we know that the zookeeper is feeding the object, so the verb is feeding. Or in passive voice, we change it into past particular verb 3, so it will be fed. And last, we have subject. A subject is the person, animal, or thing that perform the action in sentence to the object. From this picture, we know that the action is performed by the painter because she is painting the object. And this is the structure of passive voice. First, we have simple present, and the structure is object, to be, verb 3, and subject. And next we have simple past. object, was or were, verb 3, and subject. While you give explanation to students, you have to ask the students about their understanding or struggle about the material of passive voice. The explanation must be done in 10 minutes. Instruct your students to make a group. It can be consist of 5 till 6 members. It depends how many students are on your class. It must be done in 5 minutes. If the group has already done to create it, give small notes about the structure passive voice that you explained before. You can show the doodle art in front of the class and instruct one of the students member from each group to observe a simple action that exists on the doodle art in 15 minutes. And tell the students to construct the active sentence based on what they observe. Then, the member of each group will turn the active sentence into passive voice in 15 minutes. After all of the group has been finished to construct the passive voice, it's time for them to write their own passive sentence on whiteboard. Each group must write at least 10 passive voice in 15 minutes. If done, it's time for teacher and student discuss the passive voice that has been written on whiteboard. The teacher can give command and correction sentence, and student can ask about their mistake while make the passive sentence. This activity must be done in 10 minutes. Lastly, after all of the activity is done, it's time to reflection by asking the students about how they feel when learning English with doodle art, and this closing will be done in 5 minutes. Don't forget to close the class by praying. By using doodle art, students can understand passive voice more easily because they have a clear visualization of who is doing the action and who is receiving the action. That way, learning becomes more fun and effective. Hopefully, these tips can be useful for all of you in learning English. Alright, it's all from me. Thank you for watching.